Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the West Wing. I'm Phil Ford. I'm going to be your tour guide, and I am also the YDSC National Committee member. This evening, you'll be a guest to expand your knowledge of Robert's Rules of Order and assist in the transition to the Biden-Harris administration. But before we head to the Roosevelt Room, let's take care of a few housekeeping items. Please place yourself on mute so we don't distract others. If you would like to be recognized, please raise your hand in the chat function or let us know through the chat box. And I'll go ahead and give you a second. I think we have everybody muted here. Thank you, Jenny. Our Deputy Parliamentarian, Austin Jackson, will be running the chat function to answer some of your questions throughout the presentation. Additionally, there are 3 built-in breaks to pause and answer any of your questions as well. Should your question not be answered this evening, please email us at ydscnationalcommittee@gmail.com and we will get those answers to you. The third and final housekeeping item on our list is for you to please reference the YDA, the Young Democrats of America, Robert's Rules of Order cheat sheet that you received in the email this morning. Austin will be placing that link as well in the document in the chat box if you are unable to locate that email. Now for the roles being played tonight by our esteemed, experienced, and award-winning cast. Playing the role of Chair Emily Murphy is Charles Fricka, the YDSC First Vice President. Playing Secretary Robert Borton is YDSC Deputy Parliamentarian Austin Jackson. Member Allison Bergotti will be played by none other than my counterpart, YDSC National Committee member Bree Spalding. Dylan Gunnels, Chair of the Young Democrats of Central Midlands, will play Trent Benishek, General Counsel. And the YDSC parliamentarian is Tyler McDougald. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And please be reminded that if you see the outgoing president, please know that he is extremely pouty and may require an extra snack on his flight down to Florida. So we've made it to the Roosevelt Room. Enjoy your meeting.
This is just a great presentation. Good job.
I call this meeting of the Presidential Transition Team to order. The mission of our meeting is as the GSA transition meeting today. Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. General Counsel Benishek.
Present.
Mr. Oh, God. One second here, Mr. Chair. Ms. Bergotti?
Present.
I'm present, and Chairman Murphy.
Present.
Everyone is here, Mr. Chairman. You may proceed.
Excellent. Thank you, Secretary. We are moving to approve the minutes of last meeting. So last meeting's minutes have been distributed. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
Are there any objections? I'm seeing none. The minutes from our last meeting are approved. We will now be moving into reports. I'm giving my report from the chair. We are here today because I have been slacking on this now for multiple months. I was told to stop. I was told to wait. I was told, hey, stop. The election's not over. Well, it looks like, it finally is. And y'all, if someone would tell me how to do my job as chair, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'd like to give my report as well. I'm in charge of packing the belongings of the current president and we have not been able to reach an agreement with him. Hopefully we'll be able to reach something soon. We've been having many conversations with his wife as well, and she's ready to go, but he's still dragging his feet. So hopefully I'll hear something from him soon, probably via Twitter.
Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My report is simply that we are working really hard with the media. Certainly our presence nationwide has grown, as many people who didn't even know that this Office of Administration existed prior now are quite aware of who we are. So we're working a lot with social media teams and with national media to continue our strategy. We're also working on some mental health strategies, knowing that our staff has endured quite a lot in the midst of this presidency.
Mr. Secretary, would you give your report?
Yes, in my position as chief of staff, my job has been to get some space in Washington for the Biden transition team in case any motions we pass today actually get out. However, I have the president on one hand trying to tell me to stall them, and I have the president elect on the other line and ask me why haven't we gone any faster? and Mr. Chairman, this is a catch-22. We gotta make some decisions today, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
So, okay, we've reached our first break for you to ask any questions, but before we take questions, I would like to review the role of the chair. The chair is a person that is in charge of the meeting. This person has the ability to direct where and what is discussed in the meeting, usually referred to as Mr. or in this case, Madam Emily Murphy. Some responsibilities are they open the session, they call members to order, announce the purpose and topic of the meetings, they recognize members on the floor who are going to speak. Picture the chair as a talking stick. No one may speak without the floor being yielded, i.e. the talking stick from the chair. But at this time, we are going to go ahead and open up questions. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand in the chat function or put them in the chat box and we will address those now. I told you our cast was esteemed, experienced, and award-winning. We're getting the point across, I guess, so thank you so much. We'll give you guys a couple of, I guess, a minute more to see if we see any questions roll through.
Mr.
Katarina,
Narrator, there's a question in the chat.
Yes, yep. Katarina has asked, is there a gender neutral term? And you may address the chair as chair as well. Any other questions before we get back to the Roosevelt room?
Mr.
Yep, I see it. Do you need to send out an agenda ahead of time and vote to approve the agenda? I'm gonna let Mr. Benishik in this case take this one.
Yes, you do need to send out an agenda ahead of the meeting. It is my understanding, and I will ask the esteemed cast to assist me if I get anything wrong, but it is my understanding that the agenda does not necessarily have to be voted upon prior. It's just the minutes from each meeting.
And Katarina, do we have a template for agendas? I'm sure afterwards we can send you a template. I see our YDSC president nodding her head yes. So please take note, Madam President, that Katarina would like to get a template. Okay, and with that, welcome back. You've now reached the second portion of the meeting. Good luck, and help make this transition as smooth as possible.
All, as we're working through the agenda, I see that we have old business to discuss. The first item of old business is the question of when Trump moves his stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did receive that tweet that I was expecting from the president, and we were debating on if he should move his items out on the 19th or the 20th of January. He has now decided the 10th. Who knew? So we'll look for that U-Haul to come in, and we'll look for his stuff to be quickly moved out. Thank you.
Excellent. So by our agenda, we have now finished our portion of old business. We are now moving into new business. New business now is ascertainment or releasing funding, and this will be led by our general counsel, Trent Benishek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. According to the Pre-Presidential Transition Act of 2010, which, as you know, was amended in 2016 and endorsed by Congress in the Consolidated Appropriations Act, the funding should have already been released. We have to move forward for the sake of the American people. We're aiming to release the funding before the Christmas holiday. So I know that this can be frustrating for some. We all want to go home and be with our families, but this is for the sake of moving the nation forward. We are hoping to release this funding before the Christmas holiday.
Excellent, excellent. Now I did see earlier that thank you, General Counsel, for bringing this up. Again, the Electoral College met today and they voted, but that doesn't mean we have to release the funding. But we'll discuss that. I also see. Oh yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, for interrupting. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and amend the agenda.
The motion has been acknowledged to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
I've been meaning to talk to you, Trent, about what I saw on The View the other day. They were talking to Denzel Washington, and he was talking about everything that's going on and how he feels. And I wanted to tell you about that. So I figured this was the perfect time in the middle of the meeting to talk to you about what happened on The View.
What did he say? What did we have to say? That's what I'm
and on. And he was trying to tell us.
Robert.
Mr. Chair, may I call for orders of the day?
You may. The motion of the call of orders of the day has been acknowledged. All right, so we now need to get back to the motion at hand. Is there a second to suspend the rules and add an agenda item, number 3?
I'll second that.
All right, there's a vote to suspend the rules to add an agenda item not previously planned. All those in favor, please vote aye.
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 Those opposed? Any abstentions? It is the opinion of the chair that the ayes do have it. General Counsel, please present your agenda item.
All right. So everyone, before we go back to the show, let me show you. Let me tell you what just happened. So we had a situation where Mr. Gotti had spoken off topic, and I had asked the chair to for the orders of the day, which is a parliamentary motion that brings the meeting back strictly to the agenda, and we managed to get the meeting back in order. That being said, let's get back to the show.
General Counsel, would you present your agenda item?
Yes, my agenda item is simply that we release the funding prior to the Christmas holiday. And I believe that we plan to talk about the specifics of the amount of that funding and where that funding will be allocated.
All right. Is there a second? No, excuse me.
Second it.
So the motion to basically add the releasing of funding to the Biden-Harris transition team has been moved in second to the agenda. So we are now adding this onto the agenda in order for us to talk about later. All those in favor of voting to accept this as an agenda item, please vote aye.
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 All those opposed? Hearing none, the agenda has been, the new agenda item has been approved. Thank you. You know, I'm feeling real tired today. You know, would anyone like to motion for a 10-minute recess?
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we are now moving into a 10-minute recess. All those in favor, please vote aye.
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 All
Aye.
those opposed, please vote nay. It is the opinion of the chair that the ayes do have it. We will now be in a 10-minute recess.
Thank you. As your tour guide, I'll be making sure that all of the guests to the White House get an opportunity to ask questions. I see a few in the chat box and with their hands raised, so thank you. We will get to you in just a moment. However, I will not be acting like Kayleigh McEnany, President Trump's press secretary, and answer any questions that I don't really know the answer to. We'll be answering the question as a team. So I saw first, it's an email address. I guess it's arrowwood@home.sc.com.
Yes.
Go ahead with your question.
I noted that the chair called for abstentions. Abstentions are not to be called for. If a member does not vote and chooses to abstain, that is his vote, and no one has the right to question him. That is said again and again in Roberts. Also, I noticed the term old business. Roberts prefers the term unfinished business versus old business. Neither of these are earth-shattering, but if you're studying parliamentary procedure, you probably should be aware of that.
Thank you so much. We have another question Will we be able to get a copy of this recording? Yes, is the answer to that question. I'm not sure if we will be uploading it to our website, but it will be accessible, and we will let you know where via email. So with that question, are there any others? I'm going to let Ms. Brigatti answer this question. Can you explain the difference between new and old or unfinished business for those that may not be aware?
I'm sure sometimes you do have motions or business in terms of maybe even things that didn't get discussed that happened in a previous meeting that need to then move to the next meeting. So this would be where the next meeting is happening and that business was not finished. So therefore it can be old or it can be unfinished. And this is where that would happen. And then you have new business where that is the first time that it's being addressed in a meeting of the collective body.
Thank you, Ms. Brigatti. There is another question. What is allowed under suspended rules? Is it only for the thing that was stated in the motion? Is Mr. Benishek still with us?
I'm not sure I fully understand the second part to their question. I'm sorry.
Jenny, would you mind unmuting and articulating it a little bit more for Mr. Benishek?
Yes, because the motion was made to suspend the rules to amend the agenda. So if someone suspends the rules, is it only for that specific purpose? Or if they never reinstate the rules, can they still act under suspended rules and just do whatever they want?
You bring up a wonderful point, Madam President, is that we should have reinstated the rules and gone back into session. I think there was a little confusion with our script for a second there. We were trying to get back on point. But yes, after suspending the rules to add in a motion to the agenda, you should then reinstate the rules so that you are back in session.
Or it's just a free for all.
Yes.
And we've all been in those meetings and we don't want those.
I also would like to say something really quickly to Miss, I guess, is it Miss Arrowwood? She is absolutely right. But I do want to clarify, just for the sake of understanding for meetings that we could be in the future. Certainly old business and unfinished business can be used interchangeably. There are certain things about Robert's rules that are just kind of old fashioned, I think, to us, but both of those can be used interchangeably. And the second thing is regarding abstentions. She's absolutely right. If it's a verbal vote where we're just saying aye or nay, it's not a necessity to ask for an abstention. However, if you are doing a roll call vote where you need a 2/3 majority and each person is signifying their a or nay vote, then you would have to ask for abstentions because those individual abstentions have to be recorded for the 2/3 vote.
Mr. Narrator, I received a question about discussion before vote. Would the general counsel like to answer whether or not we can have a discussion before a vote?
Mr. Benishek?
Oh.
Yep.
I'm sorry. What
You're
is that?
good. Whenever you have questions, feel free to just put them directly into the chat for everyone. But I have a question here about discussion before a vote.
Mm-hmm.
So I placed it into the chat from the person who privately messaged me it. So.
I mean, certainly I guess this is just a generalized question. Certainly there is room for discussion before the vote. And in the same way Robert's rules is just a way of giving us structure and decorum when we are having debate and discussion. So there is certainly room for discussion before the vote, but the chair recognizes individuals who have raised their hands wishing to speak, and there is decorum and time limits and ways in which, of course, you can have those discussions. But certainly, yes, that discussion happens before the vote.
Yes, Ms. Brigatti.
Yes, I just wanted to also piggyback on that and say, if you look at the handouts that we provided you all, it is a little cheat sheet to help you see where discussion is needed or not needed. It is up to the discretion of the chair, and when it's not needed, if he uses it or she uses it or not. So that's just one place to help you. And the link is also in the chat multiple times, so that if you didn't get that cheat sheet to come through, and it also gives you some scenarios. And Jenny, to your point, we're going to get to the limit setting here very shortly. Thank you.
All right, so thank you all so much for those questions and staying engaged with us. And now let's get back to saving our democracy.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for that refreshing and wonderful 10-minute recess. We are now back in session. We are now moving back to the agenda, and the topic now is, it's the third one added, is releasing funding to the Biden transition team.
Point of privilege. Point of privilege. Mr. Chair, your mic is on mute. Point of privilege, your mic is on mute.
Oh my goodness, thank you for pointing that out. Yes, my microphone was on mute and you couldn't hear me at all. Thank you, Ms. Brigatti. All right, so would anyone like to move to release funding to the transition team?
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Yes.
As was discussed earlier, I think we do need to move back out of the suspended rules so that we are officially in session.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would anyone like to move to rerun the rules?
I move to reinstate the rules.
Is there a second?
I second.
Are all those in favor, please vote aye.
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 All those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With that being said, I now move to release $20 million to the Biden-Harris transition team.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion to release $20 million to the Biden-Harris transition team has been moved and seconded. We will now be in discussion, and the speakers are limited to 1 minute per speaker. Ms. Brigatti.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. As your former servant to the Republican National Committee as General Counsel, I think it is my duty to speak about all the lawsuits that our president and everyone else is bringing up in various states across the country, that this election is not over. We still have fighting to do, and we must take that under consideration. $20 million is a lot of money. And I know that the Biden-Harris team would love to just swoop on in and get things done, but not yet. We will stand in the way.
Yes, Mr. Borton.
Now, I say this as someone who's worked for Speaker Boehner and have worked with both Eric Cantor and Kevin McCarthy, as someone who was literally general counsel to the Benghazi hearings. Like someone who literally beat that dead horse for a year and a half. The election is making the Republican Party into a farce. The Electoral College met today. It is over. At some point, we have to take this L and move on.
General Counsel.
Mr. Chair, back in 1776, some ragtag farmers and individuals, business owners, they took on a feat. They took on the British nation across the sea, and they said no more. They said, we will live in a free nation. We will live under a republic democracy. They said that we will blaze our own trail. They said that we are not bound to these ideas that are not bound in our freedoms. And what I think we see happening is just like Aaron Burr said, I want to be in the room where it happens. We see a team that is continuing to try to be in the room where it happens. They are doing everything possible to make this transition impossible for us. I'm appalled by what some of the things being said here today and why we are not choosing to move forward.
5 minutes later.
And so because of that, I really believe that we have to make the right decision here today.
Mr. Borton.
Mr. Chair, point of order. The speaker has gone way past his time.
Point taken. We are going to continue to follow the limiting discussion we had earlier when we started this discussion. Speakers are limited to 1 minute. Is there any additional discussion?
Mr. Chair, I moved the previous. Thank you, sir. I moved the previous question.
All right, there's been move to someone has moved the previous question. Is there a second?
I second.
There is a motion to move and second of the previous question. To move, a majority of members must vote in favor.
Okay, so I'm going to take a step out of the narrator's role just for a second. This was a great job by the team here. We got back on track with the rules. We had our GSA Chief of Staff step in when Mr. Benishik went over his 1 minute, got the meeting back on track. And then we moved to question, moved on a question. And that basically means, let's vote on this.
All right, all those in favor of moving the question, please raise your hand. We will move the question, so moved. We will call for a roll call vote. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Yes, sir. General Secretary Benishek.
Yes.
Ms. Rigatti.
No.
Chief of Staff Borden votes aye. Mr. Chair.
The motion to release funding has passed.
Thank you. So at this time, we have only one more section left. We would like to answer any other questions. Don't be afraid to ask your questions. This is a learning situation for all of us. And perhaps if Trump's friends had asked their questions, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in now. So please put those in the chat box, raise your hand. All right. What are the different types of votes other than a roll call vote?
Okay, so
go ahead, Mr. Borton.
All right. So besides a roll call vote, the chair can call for a voice vote. They can call for a standing vote. Now you've probably seen standing votes in that as state party conventions. Voice votes are more likely to be used in regular meetings. But and all and frankly, even in at places like, say, YDA conventions, ballots can also be used. So there are normally like four types of votes that can be called from the chair.
Thank you for that, Mr. Borton. And also, those will be things that we will have in subsequent trainings, just so you know that we will include those more detailed parts into those trainings. I see we have a hand raised, Ms. Arrowood.
Sorry, didn't mean it.
Okay, no worries. I see Jonah from the upstate. Go ahead.
Hi. I feel a little odd asking this, but I noticed in the Robert's Rules it says it is never proper to raise your hand or rise to be acknowledged while another is speaking. So are we supposed to wait until like there's a moment between speakers before we're supposed to raise our hand? Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, that is correct. Now, bearing in mind, and our YDSC president posted this, I think on Facebook the other day, there are some amended rules related to doing meetings like this over Zoom now, since we live in such a virtual world. So with the Zoom function, you can raise your hand just by clicking that button. And so that's a little bit different because, you know, you're trying to keep up with the chat function and those things. And so you'd want to go ahead and click the button to raise your hand that way. The idea behind that with Robert's Rules when you're in person, especially when you're in General Assembly, is all about decorum. And so it's supposed to be respectful that you're not interrupting a speaker, even just by being distracting with movement. So you just wait for that gap. And the speaker is supposed to have the training to kind of watch out of the peripheral, right? So if 5 hands go up at one time, you're kind of recognizing who's been waiting.
Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, the vision. Okay, so this is
actually, Mr. Borton, we're going to take that one in part of the next training. Ms. Ashley, thank you so much for that. Yep, thank you so much for that. But we have set our kind of agenda for this one and then for the next. So we appreciate that. So everyone, stay tuned for the next episode of the West Wing. Are there any other questions kind of about that section that we just completed or any of the previous sections? All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Borton, and also our Deputy Parliamentarian at YDSC. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now back to putting the most racist, xenophobic, homophobic, sexist president in history in the past. Thank you.
We are now in the announcements section. Does anyone have any announcements that they would like to give?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to let everyone know that my wife has made her world famous pound cake and it can be found in the break room. Please be reminded to wear gloves and go in one at a time.
Thank you, General Counsel. So I'd like to give a recap of the day of this meeting. So we have passed last meeting minutes. We have discussed the old business of Trump's move-out date. We amended the agenda and suspended the rules to include releasing the funding. We took a time-limited recess. We reinstated the rules, having a point of order. We have released ascertainment and funding to the transition team by taking a vote. And that the announcement is General Counsel's wife has made some delicious pound cake that I cannot wait to try. Y'all, it sounds so good. Are there any last questions of this committee? All right, y'all, I'm seeing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
All right, all those in favor?
I'll second that motion
Oh,
first.
right, excuse me,
Hang on,
excuse me.
that's have to be seconded.
Is there a
No.
second? And
No worries. We know you're eager to go home. We know.
perfect, perfect. All right, thank you. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Please, thank you. All those opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, everyone, and thank you so much for this meeting. The meeting has been adjourned.
And scene. Thank you so much, you guys. Great job. And thank you all so much for joining us this evening. It's great spending time with you all. We'll take a couple more minutes for some questions if you have any. See a question from Tiffany. Should it be make a motion or I move? Mr. Benishek, I think it can be either, correct?
Yeah, it's interchangeable.
Yep, thank you. Let's see. I see some other things. Thanks. All right. Well, again, if you have any other questions, please email them to ydscnationalcommittee@gmail.com. It's been great learning with you this evening and essentially obtaining the U-Haul to move the Trump family out. And like I said before, we plan to have 2 additional in-depth discussions and trainings on Robert's Rules of Order. Please keep an eye out for those save the dates and emails. I'd like to also recognize our YDSC officers and members and our chapter leadership on the call. Hey, y'all, shoot us a smile, give us a wave. All right. And for those with your cameras off, you may keep them off if you want to, but please cut them on because we are going to take a group photo just so we can share it with everyone.
All right, I got it back on gallery view, so I will do the countdown to the picture. And I'm only taking one because I got to do a screenshot. Everybody look all pretty. 1, 2, 3. All right, got it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Well, that's it. Happy holidays, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.
That was awesome, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Katarina.
Would y'all believe I've never seen an episode of The West Wing? So I was like, I don't know what you're referencing.
Jenny,
I know. I never watched that.
you would get sucked in.
I heard.
I think
Going
they're
off on Netflix on the 24th,
yeah.
though.
I heard that one.
I'm not ashamed to say this. I've seen it 4 times. I just finished it again for my 4th time.
I saw everyone
But I
get
also-
excited about The West Wing, like something new was coming out. And I was like, I don't even know what that is.
Oh my goodness.
And I will say all of the cast members have been strong Democrats and have done a lot. They did some fundraisers for Biden this year. I know folks like Allison Janney and Janelle Maloney have done fundraisers or did fundraisers for HRC in the past. Actually, what's her name? I can't remember her name, and I just finished. Allison Janney's assistant, CJ's assistant in the show, now runs a justice reform nonprofit in DC, which is super cool. It kind of led her from the television show to actual policy influence and advocacy.
That's really cool.
That is a neat factoid. Thank you. I love those. But I have not seen West Wing either. My friends are obsessed, but I have not watched it. Just little clippies.
I think we have to watch it as a team before it goes off of Hulu or Netflix, whatever it's on.
Netflix on the
Netflix.
26th.
We have a book club. Can we have like a streaming club?
I know, right?
Isn't the West Wing still on Netflix though?
Yeah, it's coming off.
It's on Netflix until the 26th.
Ah, damn.
Okay.
Yeah,
I gotta binge it then, because I've only watched season 1.
Yeah,
But then,
2
like, where's it going to afterwards?
Disney Plus, where everything goes. No,
Right. It seems like everything's going to Disney Plus, and I don't have a Disney Plus account login anymore.
I
You're gonna
hear
have
that they're
to,
selling
buy
Disney
the
Plus
box set.
subscriptions.
Actually, I think they're folding Disney Plus and Hulu into a single streamer, which would be good for me because I have Hulu but not Disney Plus, and then my girlfriend has Disney Plus but not Hulu, so it's gonna.
Life is about-
Why don't you guys just share accounts?
You truly love someone.